We just finished up a 3-month road trip across all 6 Australian states, and since we've seen absolutely everything in Australia now, we're here to give you the definitive list of which states are the best and which are the worst.
Just kidding. Australia is huge and nobody could really see it all in 3 months. We drove over 15,000 kilometers and went to all 6 states, but I'm pretty sure there's plenty we missed, so tell us what we got wrong in the comments. Oh, and if you're wondering how we got 3 months off work and paid for such a long vacation, be sure to subscribe and check out our blog too. That's what it's all about.
All right, so first up, the absolute worst Australian state is South Australia. It's so boring they couldn't even give it a proper name. It's just basically the south part of Australia. Adelaide is this state's capital and largest city, and there's really nothing wrong with it, but it just didn't feel that much different than other big cities we've been to before. West of Adelaide, we tried to check out one of the country's famous pink lakes called Bumbunga, but it was completely dried up when we got there. Nice. We also stayed in a quaint coastal town called Port Augusta, which was quiet, pretty, and absolutely infested with cops. We got a $516 speeding ticket as a souvenir. Our favorite place in South Australia, which we actually did enjoy, was the northwest coastline of the Eyre Peninsula, including Elliston and Talia Caves, a natural attraction in the middle of nowhere, our favorite, that we spent half a day walking around while peeking into tide pools.
Coming in at 5th place is Queensland. We spent several nights in Surfer's Paradise, which was somehow both the world's biggest tourist trap and also a really relaxing place to hang out at the same time. Just inland is the Scenic Rim, home to 6 national parks. Unfortunately, there's not a singular scenic drive to take you to all of them. So we went to Lamington National Park and hiked to a waterfall where we watched the fog roll in over the not too distant mountains. The trees here were huge, twisted, and really cool to stare up at. The furthest north we made it was Brisbane, another big capital city with a more upbeat vibe and tons of free stuff to do. Definitely check out the animal exhibits at Queensland Museum and the modern art at the Museum of Brisbane. Being honest here, we didn't go super deep into Queensland because it was monsoon season, and it might have ranked even higher on the list if we'd made it further north to see more.
The state of Victoria ranks next at 4th place out of 6. Its capital city, Melbourne, reminded us a lot of LA because it had kind of a relaxed, beachy vibe in spite of the fact that it's definitely a metropolis. Our favorite spot in Victoria was Wilson's Promontory National Park, a pristine peninsula just southeast of Melbourne. It was a perfect mix of rugged cliffs, white sandy beaches, and vibrant blue water. One drawback to visiting Victoria is that we found ourselves driving through a lot of nothing to get us to its relatively few interesting spots that are on the coast. Luckily, one of its long drives, the Great Ocean Road, is anything but boring.
In contrast, the state of New South Wales has a massive coastline combined with a uniquely interesting interior, from lush mountains to arid outback. Its wide range of landscapes, not its capital city of Sydney, is what put it above Victoria at number 3 in our rankings. We visited 5 national parks in New South Wales and they were all pretty amazing. Blue Mountains National Park reminded us of the Smokies in the US, and while it wasn't our favorite, it was definitely unusual to see on Earth's flattest continent. I personally loved Lane Cove National Park because it's where I discovered my favorite Australian animal, the water dragon. Sydney Harbour National Park was a nice place to take a hike along the ocean and take in the views of the city's skyline. And we stumbled on Warimi National Park by accident, just Googling for the nearest beach one day. We actually got there just in time to see one of the best sunsets of our entire trip. Mungo National Park gave us a taste of the outback, with a remote landscape that was unbelievable to experience after dark.
Coming in 2nd place is Western Australia, the largest state of them all and definitely the most remote feeling. There are only 2 sealed roads leading into it, and it's close to 50% bigger than Alaska. 3/4 of WA's population lives in its only big city, Perth, which is actually the farthest populated place on Earth from our hometown in Florida. Getting there required crossing the vast and desolate Nullarbor Plain, and honestly, that alone felt like a major accomplishment for us. WA has lots of amazing coastal features like Green's Pool, Injidip Natural Spa, and Eucla on the Great Australian Bight. There are also some nice national parks just inland in the southwestern part of the state. We stopped one afternoon to do the treetop walk at Walpole Nornalup National Park. But our favorite place in Western Australia was Esperance, where we found the best stretch of coastline we've ever seen in our lives, Twilight Beach. Definitely don't miss it.
If you've been following along on a map, you might have noticed that we've already covered every state on the Australian continent without getting to number 1. That's because the best Australian state isn't actually connected to the rest. It's the island state of Tasmania. What sets Tassie apart from all the rest, other than literally the ocean, is its rocky terrain, unique wildlife, and noticeably friendlier residents. When you imagine being on an island, you probably don't think of mountains, winding canyon roads, and 4 to 5 hour drives. But when you're not right at the shoreline, Tasmania feels almost like the American Pacific Northwest. Walking around Dove Lake and Cradle Mountain National Park surrounded by spires was a completely different experience from being anywhere else in Australia. Our absolute favorite hike of the entire trip, though, was the Cape Hawaii walking track in Tasman National Park. Over 4,000 stair steps took us up and down a seemingly infinite rocky bridge until we found ourselves alone in the middle of the ocean. It was awesome. We only saw the endangered Tasmanian devil on road signs, but we did get up close and personal with some penguins thanks to Tasmania's proximity to Antarctica. Aside from the natural wonders, we also couldn't help but notice the slower lifestyle of the people in Tasmania. With a mixture of Hawaiian aloha spirit and American southern hospitality, the people who live in Tassie just seem happier and nicer altogether. So if you make it out to Australia, make sure you don't skip out on this special place.
If you like this kind of stuff, don't forget to subscribe or follow along on your favorite social media platform.